Hello, friends, and welcome to another in the series of Family Matters, where we explore different topics that affects the family. Today's focus is unrealistic expectations in marriages. I'm your host, Sabrina Martin. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel. I have on set with me today two panelists who have been married for several years and are quite experienced with expectations, and another who is planning on being married soon. Let's get to the introductions.
It's a pleasure, Sabrina. My name, Solomon Michael Serun Georgie. Yes, I'm a family man with 4 children, and yes, I'll be sharing some tidbits with you on this matter.
Thank you. Thank you, Solomon.
Hi, my name is Tarina Young Davis. I've been married for 14 years with 2 beautiful children. The pleasure is mine to be here.
Thank you, Tarina.
Hello, our viewers. My name is Asara Judith Marian. The caveat is I'm not experienced in marriage, so I'm here to just share bits and parts of what I know and what I've experienced in general life about expectations and especially unrealistic in marriage. Thank you very much, Martins.
Thank you, my guests. Now, unrealistic expectations are belief or hope about marriages that are impossible, unfair, or not based on reality, really. This can cause disappointment, arguments, and even resentment between partners if not addressed. Today, we will be exploring some unrealistic expectations in marriages, what they are, what problems can be caused from them, and how we can substitute realistic expectations with unrealistic ones. Now, let's get into the meat of the matter. Solomon, what are some of the most common unrealistic expectations?
Oh, thank you, Sabrina. This is a topic that, it's universal, I would like to say. It only happens that the family maybe suffers a lot from it, but it's a universal topic. We find it at workplaces and so on and so forth. But specifically about a marriage household, we come from 2 different worlds and we meet. Some of them might be solving your financial problems just because you get married. Okay. Your family financial problems, as well as the problems of your descendants. You want everything to be fixed, in this one family. That's one unrealistic one. Another one is about sharing responsibilities and how to do that in a home, especially when you have children. Some people say it's 50-50, others will say 90-10, and others will bring in their cultures and so on and so forth.
Okay, I got that. Judith, I see that you really want to delve into this one. Help us.
Before I get into the unrealistic expectations we have in marriage, it's also important for one to recognize that they have unrealistic expectations. The very first indicator is that you're very fixated on small problems, small details, you're fixated on them. The other thing is you're very critical of your partner. When they do something small, you're very critical. So diving into unrealistic expectations, the very first one I know is that you expect your partner to be perfect in looks, in personality, even in parenting. When maybe they don't do something, you're going to be critical, you're going to make noise. The other one also we have is expecting sex from your partner every single night.
Oh, so that's one of the unrealistic expectations. Yes. All right, that's a very good one. And that's a good one to branch off into my next question. Tarina, why do you think people develop unrealistic expectations in the ideas about marriage?
I think people will develop unrealistic expectations through marriage or in marriage is because of society.
Okay.
Society will create this picture that, marriage should be a certain way. Media will create a picture that, it's always happy-go-lucky, no problems in the marriage, and people will take what is on the screen into their daily lives and they will realize that it's not realistic. So I think media plays a very big role in that, because growing up we will watch a lot of romance movies or soap operas, and we will see these actors and these scenes, and we said, yes, I want this for myself. Even the fairy tale stories, growing up as a child, I want this marriage, I want this life, I want to find my prince and live happily ever after. And it's just not realistic. So I think media is one of the biggest
And that-
contributors to it.
It is. And talking about media, Solomon, what about culture? How does culture shape unrealistic expectations?
Thank you, Sabrina. And in addition to what she said, I think culture is inevitable. Well, you know, we are all born in a certain society, and we're trained to be like that. We see how women dress in that society. We see how women are treated in that society. And when we grow up, we many times want to emulate that. We think that is good. So, for example, in a family where a woman is supposed to be in the backyard, she's supposed to sacrifice her entire life taking care of the family, and the man is out, you know, looking for food. This can put a heavy toll, for example, on the woman, you know, on the wife who is taking care of the children, taking care of a big household, and so on and so forth. The other one could be how we're supposed to treat our in-laws, for example. You know, we're not supposed to do certain things in front of our in-laws. But then in the end, depending on who we get married to, these expectations can end up hurting our partners because they are probably not, especially if the marriage is cross-cultural.
I was just about to mention that. Because say, for example, an African married to a Middle Easterner, how the different cultures would clash and how unrealistic the expectations could be.
You just put two layers to it. You
Yes.
know? African is one thing, but there's also a religious aspect that sometimes builds onto that. And
Yes.
sometimes the religious is conflated with the cultural. So certain cultures, for example, they do not expect, for example, the woman to, they're not comfortable with the woman actually getting employment completely. It's a big thing. But what does that do to the confidence of the woman who sacrificed her life trying to be something, and now she's, you know, entangled in this society that says you're going to be looked down upon when you mingle in a work relationship and so on.
Thank you. I like that. And you know what? That brings me to my next question, Judith, which will be
I wanted
directed to you.
Something.
Okay, go ahead with
Get there.
okay.
To what Terina alluded about, social media. She just brushed on the top, but I'd add something. You see, social media, what social media does to relationships or marriage, it either puts a bar so high or so low. So let's say you'll see couple goals on social media. Your husband, is taking, maybe the husband on social media is always going, for trips. Your husband has never taken you a trip.
Yes,
Maybe because of your financial situation at home, you're now going to begin judging your partner best, on social media. So it has made the standards for relationship either too high or too low. Now, the current trend of social media has been bare minimum. So the challenge is, let's say at home your financial situation hasn't been very good. And because of that, your husband may be straying. Or let's say the wife is the one who's supporting. But on social media, she's going to be called a pick-me. Why is she looking after her husband? So I feel social media has, alterated, the standards of what a relationship is. But also the values have been, misaligned. Social media has specific things that are, created and known as, the very best. So when we look at social media, we're looking at standards, being changed. Bars are going to be so high. They're going to be so low. But also, what is the identity of a man in a relationship? But also a woman. Because for social media, the man must be rich. He has to be handsome. He must have money. Now, the people that are getting to marriage, like myself, I'm thinking, well, this person does not have money. Am I getting myself in the wrong thing? So values and standards are the problem with social media.
And that brings me to the question I was going to ask about damage. What damage can unrealistic expectation do to marriages? Anyone can answer that one.
The very first one is the low self-esteem of a woman.
Okay.
The BBLs we are having, people are going to khaki and they are changing their body because according to social media, you must have an hourglass figure. If it's not hourglass figure, you must be thin as a pickle. Everyone is trying to look perfect.
But
another
can I stop you there?
Sure.
But is it an unrealistic expectation of you or of your husband?
Well,
that is the thing.
Yes. Well, ideally, in the start of the relationship, did you as a couple sit down to discuss, the issues of your body changing? Again, back to unrealistic, expectations. In the start of the relationship, maybe the husband imagined the wife would never change, which I don't know if it is true about men. Professor, maybe Solomon, you could address that. But there's this idea, I'm marrying you, you must look this. You're not going to change. Forgetting childbirth is going to change your body. Even your hormones are changing you. So because of that, your body is going to change. The other thing, I'm forgetting the question. I'm taking
It was about the damages, and other persons can
self-esteem.
go to that.
Yeah.
I could just finish. Self-esteem. Next thing is anxiety and panic attacks.
Okay, those are some damages.
Yes, yes. So low self-esteem,
Uh-huh.
anxiety and panic attack, but also debt. Because I want to live a certain lifestyle, I'm going to the bank to borrow money. I'll drive the fast car to impress everybody who doesn't really care about me.
So,
it's
but that
financial.
again, I'm asking you, is it unrealistic expectation for you, for your husband, or it's just for you?
Again, I'm repeating this. If the parties did not discuss these needs, what we call now unmet needs, during the stage of, dating, then it's going to become unrealistic expectation because they did not discuss at the start of the relationship what they expected.
Okay.
So we are coming to this relationship. What are your expectations? I bring mine to the board. You bring yours on board. Well, I think we can't work with this. Then you bring, the math in the question. So for me, that the define of what is unexpected or unrealistic is something you did not discuss. So it's now something new to me. Like, I had no idea I had to keep fit or remain in size 12 in this marriage. So
All right, thank you. The damages, we'll get back to the damages. Yes.
There is a thin line. I think she has done well, but the thin line is still going to be there
Yes.
sometimes between expectations and unrealistic ones. For example, if I desperately need a job, for example, now this is slightly out of the topic, but if I need a job and my manager says he gives me unrealistic expectations and that is what he needs me to in order to get the job, probably I'll say yes because I need the job. You have to work 16 hours. These are very unrealistic, to be honest. You have to make this many sales in a week and so on and so on. They're unrealistic. But sometimes we go into these unrealistic expectations knowing full well they're unrealistic. It doesn't mean that when you discuss something, the unrealistic expectations are going to go away. Probably they'll stay there.
So you're aligning that to marriage. That says that sometimes the wife may say, I need this, this, this. And because you really truly love her and you want to make her happy, you just say yes. But you know that you cannot fulfill those.
Absolutely.
Okay, yes,
Can I
Tarina.
add something? Let's look at these unrealistic expectations. Let's narrow it down to finances and intimacy, okay? Let's talk about finances. If when we were dating and courting, the man gave the woman the impression that I can take care of you, I can provide all your needs, and this has been happening for months or even years during the courtship, during the from the moment you got engaged and all of this. When we get married, I am going to expect this, okay? So sometimes expectations become unrealistic because our situation changes. It's not that we started out as unrealistic expectation. I've been expecting this because you have been providing this. You have been showing me that you can do this. So over the years, your finances might change, situations might change. I know that early onset of expectation, it changed over the years. So my thing is that couples must be mature enough, or for a better word, to take the time to revisit these expectations,
that's
to
what's gonna be
revamp,
my
to
thing.
sit and talk. And what might seem, unrealistic for you is not unrealistic for me.
Because
so we need to, because of our genuine or unique
different situations.
So maybe you're saying me as lazy, but for you, I should be
because at the beginning you were my provider, you were my breadwinner, you were my backbone, and then sometimes because of pride, things change, and men, our husbands, our spouses, they don't communicate enough to let us know that this is happening, and this expectation has changed, the roles and responsibilities has changed, and let's work this out, let's talk this out, how can we move on?
I like that. And that gets me to the next question, Solomon, which I will address to you. What are healthy ways to adjust your expectations without feeling that you're settling for less?
I think there's one thing maybe we should have addressed a little bit, and I'll bring this in. I'm coming into a marriage. I should flip the question and say, what am I actually contributing to this marriage? Sometimes we come empty-handed and we expect our plates full in that marriage. We're just there to take and not to bring anything. What exactly are you bringing? If you as a person answer this question, you will feel a little bit like, responsible, and also part of this thing. So personal evaluation is very important.
All right, and I like that.
Even
How can you identify those
personal, yeah.
how can you identify those unrealistic
So
expectations?
for
then?
example,
Yes.
I'm going to get married, and I know that we don't have anything. We're starting from scratch as
Okay.
a family. Now I'm telling my husband, you need to build a house and take care. But what actually does it mean to take care of me? You have to understand that definition. What does it mean to build a house? Is it going something that will happen in 1 year, 5 years? Realistically, it takes 20 years. People take mortgages to build houses. Here you are thinking that, these movies, the Nigerian movies we see, someone flashes money and in one day there is a house there. That is unrealistic. Self-evaluation, very, very important before putting the thing together.
All right, so that's the way we can identify. Yes, Tarina and Judith, I see you're ready
Go
for
ahead,
Solomon
Judith,
just
then I'll
now.
Well, you mentioned something that made me, go with, the common adage of what do you bring to the table.
Yes.
Well, now the thing is this, you have to identify that you and your husband are two different people. Born from two different places, you have different genders, and your gender may necessitate you have different roles that you're going to serve in this marriage. For instance, you're telling your wife, what do you bring, let's say, to the table? She's going to give birth to your children. Her body may change, but also, do you know where she's come from? What are the meditate standards she has about marriage? Maybe where she came from, the standard was the husband has to be the provider. For me, I'm just going to give birth to the children. So I feel to avoid that discussion that you've brought of your wife not understanding your needs, the conversation has to be very clear. But also, what are the biases you also have as a husband? Maybe because you're seated with your boys and you're discussing, this is what men are saying, this is what where I'm from. You have to sit and you discuss. Another thing I wanted to just mention shortly before, with what you said, there are these people who are born, in a bubble. You've been raised in a perfect family with your mother and your father. They provided for you. So you come into the world expecting, I'm going to marry a perfect wife, who'll do everything. And you're shocked. There are wolves everywhere. So at the back of your mind as a husband, when your wife is questioning you, go back and sit. Ask her, tell me about your background. What was it like? So because of that communication failing, then the question will come of you saying, have my needs been met? I don't know if I'm very clear on that.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
but
have.
that is it. But it's very important too for you to have premarital counseling. Then some of these things would have been answered during those counseling sessions. Go ahead,
Yes,
Tarina.
that is what I was going to start off with, because when we have this notion about what you bring to the table, these are things that should have been discussed, as you said, through counseling, through dating, through
Yes.
courtship.
Yes.
And we talk about bringing to the table, like, who brought the table though? What is the table? I see this. You see this every day in social
Yeah.
media. And she mentioned something about, having children, like the fact that I can give birth, that's it. That's just my contribution
To the table.
Like, where did you get this notion from, this expectation? And I
Society,
think, yes,
social
but
media.
this is why I believe that couples should have their own expectations. Yes, your expectations will be shaped by society, shaped by media, shaped by advice from family culture and all of that. But you have to be mature enough to have sense enough to pick sense out of nonsense and pick a little here, take a little there, and see how can we use this information to shape my marriage. Because at the end of the day, when I leave that counseling session, when I leave that wedding day,
Yes.
and we go home, it's just us. That's
Yes.
where the marriage starts. That's just us. And some persons will think that, we had this grand wedding and it was lavish and the
Beautiful.
money, 3 days, whatever celebration based on culture. And then when you come home, you're just bread and water.
Then
And you don't realize that this is what you were going into, but because you were so blinded and your eyes were clouded because of what the dating was, you go into this. So back to what she said about bringing, what
the
you
table.
bring to the table. These things need to be communicated from
From
day
the-
one.
all right. So my next question is, how can unrealistic expectation lead to deeper issues such like resentment, emotional distance, and even leads to divorce?
communication, and we did a previous session on effective communication. We need to know what the expectations are.
Yes.
If my husband does not know what is expected of me, how can the poor guy deliver?
So because it's unexpected, I'm saying, right? So
Yeah.
so we need to communicate.
Whether it's verbal, whether it's written. If if your spouse is a person that you cannot sit and talk with, get somebody to help you to make this message clear. It
Yeah.
has to be clear. Expectations have to be clear.
Or we realign, we go back to the table,
Yeah.
and we sit and we realign
Yes.
our unrealistic expectation with expected ones.
I don't think we should align the unrealistic expectation with we should make the expectations clear. And when they are clear, we will decide if it is unrealistic or if it is realistic from day one.
All
Can I
right.
piggyback on what she said?
Just quickly do that, and
Okay,
then we will
sure.
go for a break.
Now, to add that, one of the unrealistic expectations I didn't mention was mind reading. Usually women like, okay, not really women, they will attack me, sorry women. But then mind reading is such an expectation that I would expect, my partner knows what I've said. They should know I'm angry. So I like what you say, communicate clearly.
But we communicate differently, Judith. I could say we communicate with body language. But we will go for a break, and when we get back, we will look at practical solutions in which we can address unrealistic expectations. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you at the end, on the other side of this break. Thank you.
Barrenness. Your worth isn't tied to your ability to bear children. You're more than your body. You're strong, capable, and loved. Stay happy and strong.
Thank you for staying with us. We really appreciate it. Now let's get back to my panel. We have been discussing so many things about unrealistic expectation. Now, Judith, in your experience, what is one expectation that most couples struggle with that is unrealistic, and how can they overcome it? And I'm sure the other members of my panel can also go into the conversation too. But Judith, let me start with you.
Sure. One of the unrealistic expectations that I've seen that maybe I've also struggled with is mind reading. I expect the other person to know when I'm very angry, when I'm happy, when my birthday is coming. They should not send me a text message. Please send a gift, with flowers. So it is one of those unrealistic expectations that couples struggle with. Just mind reading.
Or mind reading.
Yes, because you imagine, I'm assuming, it's a general rule. All the men do this, all the women do this. So assume. So assumption is a very bad thing in marriage. So how do we, find a
Overcome
solution?
it.
Yes, for this. I believe we should prioritize appreciation, of expectation. Trade your expectation for appreciation. The day maybe your husband, brings a flower or comments, how beautiful you look. Say, okay, I've taken that. I will not, keep pushing the bad things he's done. Appreciate your spouse for the things they've done for you, for the little things. Because when you appreciate the little things, then they are able, to do the bigger things that you want them to do. But also express compassion. Sometimes be compassionate with your spouse.
All right, so thank you. So, mind reading. Yes, Tarina.
I'm here and I'm thinking,
Yes.
this just popped into my head, and sometimes in marriages, couples go into it with the expectation that the wife will give birth, will get pregnant. And sometimes that expectation becomes very unrealistic because of some medical issue,
Issues.
infertility, something like that. And then the problem is now placed on the woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
The woman
Not
is
knowing
blamed
that
by the family.
the husband might be the problem.
Yes.
So, unrealistic expectation, it doesn't only have to be with finances, intimacy, love and affection. It can be
Childbirth.
giving birth.
Yes.
Sometimes you expect you're coming from a big family and you said, yes, I want to have 4 or 5 children. And then you will become heartbroken
Yes,
wife-
and then problems develop.
Yes.
You become distant.
Yes.
Persons call you names, and
Exactly. So even
Yes.
though it is,
that's a very good.
it's not, it's realistic in the beginning, then it becomes unrealistic as
Because
the
you
years
can't
go
because
by.
of
Yes.
medical problems, and it's
Yes.
totally impossible based on what the doctors may have said that you
Yes.
can't have children,
Yes.
or
So
because of the man's fertility
Yes,
that he
inability.
can't have children.
Yes.
He can't allow you to have children.
Yes.
All right,
I
Solomon.
was going to say something, but
Yes.
because she said something very heavy, I would
Yes.
like to say this.
Very
Is
pertinent.
it, however, practical to preempt this? Is it something we've talked about discussing and saying, well, let's have a conversation about many things before we get married? But is it possible to actually have a proper discussion around childbirth, infertility, before you get married? Asking your partner, for example, would you still love me
Yes.
if I don't have children?
Yes. That's
And because he'll say yes under pressure.
Of course he will.
But of course he'll say yes, but that is probably not a good answer. You really need to be, a counselor maybe would do this better,
Yes.
actually. To make you understand that a marriage comes with not just the roses, but there's going to be challenges such as this. And I would admit that these are some of the things that would never be discussed.
And I want to get in there. I'm talking about myself. Before my husband and I got married, we had to go to the doctor and we had to do all these checks before we got married. And we had to find out, the counselor wanted to ensure or wanted to find out if it's possible that if I would be able to get pregnant, or if my husband, if things are working for him in that department. And that was really good of our counselor. But not every person does that, and not everybody goes to premarital
Are willing
counseling
to go. Yes.
and have that done. But that was done in my case. That was done.
Not only that, but that's one thing. But if I'm of a genetic makeup, now we
Yes.
have genetics. For example,
Yes.
if I come from a lineage of sickle cell anemia, and you
Yes.
also come from a lineage of sickle cell anemia, even if
Yes.
you're both carriers of this, it's inevitable that
The
every child, not only one, the probability that the child will get this is 100%.
Yes.
So we would rather fix this before going forward. So I agree. But unfortunately, either we don't do that before getting married, or we would rather comfortably go with the rosy love rather than address the issues at hand. But that
yes.
was not the issue. That was just passing by.
Yes.
The real issue I wanted to talk about is
Yes.
financial.
Yes.
Okay.
Financial. What kind of life do you want to live? How would you want to raise your children? These are some of the challenges that we face in a family. We are all at zero. What kind of, we have to draw the model, the life that we both want before we come together, and see if coming together will actually bring this to reality. Because you want to go study masters, you want to do PhD, you want to have this, you want to have a business. I have totally different expectations. If we put this together, is there a formula
Yes.
that both of us can we can put this in some kind of algorithm,
Is it
and in 10
achievable?
years
Yes.
it will say, listen, this is where we are. If we are not on the same page,
Yes.
right on the go, we're going to start fighting.
I like the thing about coming together and looking at different timelines. So
Yes.
probably a 5-year is unrealistic,
5
but a
years.
10-year would be more realistic. So hence we can come together and decide that doing the masters in the next 5 years is not realistic, because we have children who are going to do college in another 2 years. So it may not, but in 10 years it will be. So here we can come together and then we can solve those unrealistic ones.
I'll just say something real
Yes.
quick. We went for a conference somewhere, and one of the presenters said that his wife was asking to, I think they were building a new house, and he wanted to buy new couches, like new sofas. And they were very expensive, maybe $10,000.
Yes.
That was a very big number, because for him, he wanted to put this money in a business.
Yes.
But the wife actually wanted the house to look good, because when visitors come, he
They
doesn't
see
want
the
people to
house.
fall through the chairs.
Yes.
It's embarrassing for them. And then you start to have conflict here. But when you sit together and as a husband say, listen, we will get these couches in 1 year, it had better be 1 year. Setting timelines, sometimes we put ourselves under pressure to make our spouses, because we want to put something. You don't have to put yourself under pressure. You know full well that you'll not build a house in 2 years, and you tell your spouse, in 2 years I expect you don't have a business, you live on a salary thing. What are the options? We have to really be very open.
Can I ask the question?
Yes, and it's going to be mine. I'll ask the question too, and then we can just put them together and we answer. Is it normal for expectation to change after the honeymoon phase? Fine, we had said that, but how can couples adjust to the changing? Yes.
Can I just ask a question, then I can answer?
Yes.
That adjusting to the change. Does that then mean couples should have the same dreams? Isn't that unrealistic to expect you and your husband to have the same dreams?
Can I answer that? No, we don't. That's the whole point of discussion. Otherwise, if we have the same dream, what's the point of discussion?
Yeah.
The idea is to see, because resources is a finite, time is a resource, money is a resource,
Yes.
everything, even our relationship is a resource. And we use this resource to make each other happy. So we need to understand what are actually your expectations coming into this thing, and I also tell you mine. And then we'll try to align based on
Yes,
the
we need to
resources available.
find the area. You have to
common
find the
ground.
middle. Yes, you need to find a
Middle
common ground.
Yeah, when you have this, I think it's much easier to,
Okay, I'll just still back on that question.
Yes.
So I come from a background where I was celebrated as a child. There were birthdays every single day. My father took me out for all the celebrations. I'm married to this husband who wants to build a house, and he's saying, your birthdays, every Valentine, I'm buying you all these things, and I'm wasting money. So where does this couple get from the common ground? If you were saying, okay, we are going to align ourselves, we're going to build a house in 20 years. His excuse is, all the money is wasted on these trips and vacations. But I believe I'm supposed to be celebrated because that is how I was raised by my parents.
So that's what he's saying. You come together and you have a conversation. You have the conversation to say, your dad could afford that.
Yes.
But here we are, we can't afford that now. Now let's build ourselves, let's build our home, let's build our family. Then afterwards, if we can, then we go on trip every year or every 3 months. So we have to come together and we have to have that conversation. That realistically your father can do that. But unrealistically, I can't afford that at this point in my life.
So at what stage are you going to realize that that's your father's expectation? That's your mother and father's expectation. For you, it might be unrealistic. And as I said earlier, we have to be mature to realize that this is not mine.
Yes.
This reality is just not mine. And you have to look and see, what are your priorities in a marriage, in creating a life? You know, what are the priorities? Is that I want to get this house completed,
Or
I want to go on
trips.
You know,
Yes.
it depends. And communication is the
key.
basis to
It's
all
really
of
the
this.
key.
Can I add something real quick?
Go ahead.
It's easier to have this discussion where you're both, young, or the age gap is not really that big. When you get married to someone who is 20 years, there's very little you're actually bringing to the table. There is things you're bringing to the table, but you're a weaker partner in terms of negotiating, because the guy has pretty much achieved everything in terms of at least what we call
And you're assuming.
You're assuming.
I'm just assuming, but I'm also being realistic. So you're getting married to someone who is 20 and you're trying to contribute something. Let's be realistic, right? That's the challenge. But what I actually wanted to say is to bring in the children a little bit.
Yes, we're getting there, but go ahead.
Yeah. I didn't complete it. You can complete it for me.
You
Okay.
cannot just drop that bomb and just try to run away like that.
Okay, just do that.
You're assuming that because, a woman is marrying a man that is 20 years older than her, that he's mature, that he's able, he's a provider.
No, I'm not saying
In
that.
some cases, it's the other way around.
No, I'm saying that
He just has age going for him, maybe looks. Maybe during the courtship, he was a very good actor. Now that we are living together, the true colors have,
Yeah, but age
Sure,
gap. So if I'm
yes.
60 and
Yes.
you're 20, clearly everybody has a different objective here. We cannot sit down and say, what do you expect from this marriage, and what do you expect the other way around? Clearly, the 20-year-old, most likely, he's looking after the money, right? Am I realistic or am I not being realistic? There is a financial
that based on what we have seen in
that is the
society.
reality.
and
Yeah. So what I'm saying, it's easier to have this discussion if there is some interest between the two parties.
But there must have been interest for them to get married
But then I want, before we go, because I don't want the show to finish and we have not yet touched intimacy.
Yes,
Sabrina.
and there is a
And I
thing,
wanted to
and
say something
that's
about
my
children too. But
Yes.
okay, let's go.
But without intimacy, there will be
no
no
children.
No, I'm saying after the intimacy, there's children.
Okay.
The intimacy disappears.
Yes.
So here is my question. How do traditional or cultural ideas about gender create roles or create unrealistic expectation in modern marriages? Example, some some African countries with some Middle Eastern customs. How does it create unrealistic expectations in marriages?
With gender?
Yes.
Let's start with gender.
Yes,
Sometimes
let's
you
go
have
with
to
gender.
break it down. Let's start with gender. It is assumed that, a wife, a woman must take on certain roles within the marriage. Your position is either in the bedroom, in the kitchen, or in the backyard. While
Okay.
the man is the provider, is going out to work, he's the one that seeks education and so on. And if children comes in the picture, then the wife is the one who has to, take care of the children as well. So sometimes those gender roles become unrealistic in the marriage, because you might have a wife that her ideals or goals for her life doesn't fit within this cultural dynamics. It doesn't fit. So it becomes unrealistic for her. And
That's
there's a
true,
strain.
Can I also add something?
Go ahead.
When we're looking at, gender affecting expectations, usually couples come with premeditated ideas of what a marriage is and the roles that they've been told in their culture. For instance, maybe in the culture, the roles of a wife are very definite. They never change. So
Okay.
if maybe the wife sees the husband doing roles, assumed to be for the wife, he's questioning, what is going on? I don't understand. So the thing about gender is it has a way of putting biases in the couple's
Yes,
mind.
and that is
some of these
was going to be my
biases,
next question
yes,
about who do what in the marriage based on the gender. So that's the same thing for real. It does put biases, and you would have come with your premeditated idea of who should do what. Yes.
However, I need to reiterate this. Because of the biology of a man and a woman, there are certain roles that may be given, for instance, to the woman. For instance, the woman is the caregiver. I don't expect the father to be the one nursing the child. So ultimately, my expectation as a wife in the marriage is I will look after my baby. My husband will assist. I don't expect after birth, well, have your child, I'm now going back to work. You understand? So there may be those ones that adjust to nature and nurture, that are
Okay.
for the woman and also the husband. Then for the husband, ideally, look after your family, maybe pulling the financial muscle, and the wife can help. But if we are saying let's switch these roles a bit because society is changing, we are saying emancipation. Right now we have so many women at the top of their career and they're frustrated by husbands who are not helping with the hand because they say, well, you said gender roles. So ideally when we look at gender roles, we should be open as well to say, in as much as these roles are definite, there may be a moment where maybe the husband gets an accident and the wife has to be the one to look after
Well,
the
their
family.
situation would have changed, so it would not have been unrealistic. Then we would have looked at the change in circumstances,
And how you adjust.
and then we would have adjusted to that.
Yes.
All right. How does we had touched on that, but I want to do this in a more definite way. How does social media create unrealistic expectation for marriages today, especially when it comes to intimacy?
Social media, I tell you, social media only highlights the positive, highlights the happy moments, give you the highest points of relationships.
Yes.
If they are being honest, because let's look at our society right now. You have a lot of vlogs and a lot of influencers, and they are sharing their lifestyle. And when you look at it, it's only the happy moments, the shopping, the celebrations, the this and the that, the intimacy and all of this. And then when you look at it, you're wondering, what is happening in my life? What am I doing wrong? What are we doing wrong? When you look at what they are presenting, they are showing you that, oh, my marriage is that every day we get up and, we're just happy-go-lucky. There are no arguments and there are no problems. And then we start comparing our lives. And
Okay.
you're wondering, what is it that we are doing wrong in our
Can I add
marriages? And then you realize that that is unrealistic. You know, so sometimes, as I said, know what is real and know what you have. If the marriage and the that relationship that you have is real, hold on to that.
This do
Sometimes
not
we need
allow
to-
social media to create standards
Yes,
for you.
we need
Create
to
it
set
for
our own
yourself.
standards,
Okay.
our own boundaries, put up our own walls, and say, fine and dandy, this is what is happening in that person's life. But this is our life.
Okay.
This is real for us.
Thank you. Thank you,
I want to
Terina.
add something,
Yeah.
intimacy and social media. One thing about social media is everyone is an expert. It is highly opinionated. We have marriage experts, we have financial experts. So every time you are clicking through TikTok, somebody's giving you advice on your marriage. You're not even aware that these are just opinions, you're being fed with. So the biggest challenge with social media is highly opinionated people who have no idea what they're talking about. To touch on the matter of intimacy, social media has made it such a problem to say intimacy should be perfect. It has to be daily. If your partner is not giving you, irrespective of either there's a medical condition, then there is a problem with your spouse. But also, there are also falsehoods about intimacy. Everyone is an expert in the bedroom. They've got these ideas. What if you break, your spine trying to impress your spouse, because of what you've seen on social media? So the biggest problem in social media is the ideals
Yes.
of intimacy are crazy. To the point even your teenagers are watching and wondering, well, is this what I'm going to find in marriage? So the picture is a bit, hazy. You're unsure of what intimacy is. Then even the expert on intimacy are everywhere on social media. So it's a problem. We're oversaturated with information on social
Okay.
media.
I see, Solomon, you're ready to talk to us
I
about
wanted to say
intimacy,
something,
Solomon.
but-
You're
but
going to talk to
somehow,
us about intimacy and some of the unrealistic expectation where intimacy is concerned.
Oh, I thought they had actually done a good job.
No,
with that,
I
but,
want your view on it from a man's perspective.
Right, you got it.
Yes.
So here's the problem, or here's the reality.
Okay,
of the matter,
yes.
Is that functionality in terms of intimacy? Intimacy is built on two things. It's built on the physical and the emotional, and both of these hormones coming in. Okay, we have feminine hormones and masculine hormones. These two must be at their highest points in order to give the best at all times. But it's not always the case. One, because
Right.
of age.
Okay.
Because of stress, work-related stresses,
yes.
Yes.
the performance is not always going to be the same.
No,
It's
no.
not realistic. Actually. It's
Okay.
unrealistic to expect the same level of quality of
The optimum.
outcome. Absolutely, it's not acceptable.
Not for every day
And not for every day.
and not for every time.
Not for every time.
Different times you may have different levels.
You may have different levels.
Okay.
It can rise and then fall, rise and fall. But
Yes.
what we have to do is to work on keeping it, work together
Find a
to see
balance.
how to.
Yes.
Don't put me under pressure just because I didn't do good today, and also
You may
compliment
need
when things
food
go.
or something to ensure that it's boosted and you're ready for tomorrow.
Yes, but then there is also the age aspect.
Yes,
You have
true.
to understand that, yes, while the feminine body changes,
Yes.
the masculine body changes too. These things
Yes.
work with the hormones.
Yes.
Okay? And estrogen and progesterone, for example, naturally
Goes
fall
down
with
as you
age.
get older.
And that means energy levels fall with age.
Yes.
You cannot expect the same level.
Thing that you had
Now-
15 years ago to be at it afterwards.
Now, be careful. When you start browsing, looking for shortcuts, medicinal supplements that are going
Okay.
to give you this 20-year-old kind of performance, be careful, because it might also, start giving you some other health-related issues.
Yes,
So these are some of the challenges that
Unrealistic expectation causes.
we don't talk about them.
Yes.
We don't talk about them, right? Social media. What has social media done? She's right to do that. But I'll add one thing. When you watch a movie, actually 90% of all love-related movies end when the marriage starts. That's the problem. They show you the courting and all the deal darling, but then they'll end when the two get married, and then they'll be like, then the movie ends. Why
They
should
live
the movie
happily.
end when the
They-
marriage starts? We want a movie where actually real people live throughout this thing for 20, 30 years so that we can learn something. That's the problem with social media. So we go out looking for once I get a partner, all my problems are solved. No, that is when the real game begins.
All right, this we could continue for
Let's
a long
please
time.
continue on this,
Yes,
just
but
for a
yes,
while.
yes, go ahead.
Because in certain cultures,
Yes,
women are taught to please their husbands.
yes.
Okay? Women are taught to please their husbands. And I'm wondering, is anyone teaching the husbands to please their wives?
Good one.
Oh.
I'll talk from the African perspective.
Okay, go ahead. But
Very briefly, very briefly.
Yes, yes.
Yes, the women, in order to keep your relationship, this is the unwritten rule. In order to keep this marriage for long, you really need to impress your husband. In bed, provide for them, cook for them, keep the house clean. That way, the husband will be motivated coming to the same house every day.
Oh.
Likewise, a husband should be able to take care of the wife financially, security, protection, and always the male child, train them to be a masculine provider of the house, protecting the mother if the father is not there, and so on. They're unwritten rules. However, there are pros and cons, which we'll not go into. It's we have gotten so many issues because of these, projections, but that is the perspective.
Okay, so based on what you've just said, I've recognized that in your discourse, you did not mention that there is no expectation for the man to satisfy his wife. And persons looking on will be wondering
Yes.
what should what should happen, because it is a relationship. It's not one way. Satisfaction must be from both sides. So are we saying then that women are going in with unrealistic expectations where intimacy is concerned when it relates to certain African nations?
I think we should mention another word in
Yes.
between. Unrealistic expectations, realistic expectations, and no expectations. There is something where you go in, you have no idea what you're going into. And whatever is thrown your way, you accept. That is the problem with some of the cultures, which I will not mention.
Wow, this is this is such a high point to end, but I'll give each of my panelists 30 seconds to give their closing remarks. Judith.
What I would say as a solution, this is a very charged topic, but one of the solutions for unmet expectations is just be compassionate with your partner and make time to understand each other, because you're going to change. The person you met today, you'll be shocked 5 years into your marriage, they've changed. So be compassionate, make time to understand each other, but also expect sometimes the absolute worst, but also the absolute best in your marriage. Just go open-minded. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Judith. Tarina.
I want to say create your own reality, your own expectations. And don't be afraid to revisit those expectations over the years as you grow, as your situation
As you
changes.
evolve, yes.
Yes, as you evolve. Don't be afraid to revisit them and see if the expectation 10 years ago, if it's still valid. No. Don't be afraid to go back.
So
Very briefly, children are dear and near to my heart. I would like to say, parents, let's not also put a lot of unrealistic expectations on children's achievements, academic and otherwise, in the home that we ourselves were unable to do before. When these children grow up, they also have unrealistic expectations,
Yes.
because they came from families of unrealistic expectations.
that's true. Now that we've explored unrealistic expectations and how we can counteract that with more realistic expectation, I hope that with what we have presented today, that persons going into marriages will have a more realistic view, which would decrease tensions in marriages and which would lead to misunderstanding, and we would have more lasting and wholesome relationships and marriages. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, my team, for coming in and working with me today. And also please remember to share, subscribe, and to like our channel. Thank you and have a great day.
Bye.